right. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Cool. So since I know I am the only thing standing between you guys and a glass of wine or drink or bourbon, and there we go. So first, when I share the topic with some of my friends and colleagues about talking about data intelligence, oh yeah, those are my boys. So talking about data and competitive intelligence for product innovation, many of my friends were just laughing and saying, are you seriously going to talk about that? That's going to put the audience to sleep. And even more so when I said, well, and I'm the last one presenting, are you, oh my God, dude, don't do that. And that reminded me actually that I presented, or I was actually part of the audience when an attorney was talking about data and how he used data for IP. And really half of the room at the end was snoozing. So I'm trying to do my best to not do that. Before starting, I definitely want to say thank you for the organizers. Thank you for all the speakers, because this has been incredible. It's been a great resource to have each other as resource and learn from each other. So if nothing else, use the Slack channel and connect with each other. Use each other as a resource. All right, how many of you or how many of us has seen this stat? So for the majority of the room, 80% of CEOs and decision makers don't trust what the marketers do. Anyone has seen that? And if not, then welcome, because for many of us as marketers, our decision makers and CEOs don't believe in what you do. It's eye-opening. And by the way, this is not me saying it. This was a survey that was conducted from an English company, an English researcher, of about over 1,000 different CEOs and decision makers, not only in the US, but it was in North America, Europe, Asia, Australia. I might be missing one. I think those were the big ones. Not only in large companies, but small and large enterprises. So it was across, right? Consistent. And why is that? Well, if you think about it, in the P&L, marketing is the big spends. It's the one spends. Like if you think in terms of GoDaddy, we spend a ton of money in marketing. TV and banners and digital, it's the one huge spend. But it's also because most of the marketers are disconnected with the financial realities that the companies are trying to hit. So the one lesson learned from that is that they were saying, if the marketing team or the marketers have more of an ROI mentality, or they are more ROI marketers, then we tend to believe more in what they're doing, right? So what I want to try to do now is hopefully these lessons learned that I'll share with you will be more focused on you to becoming an ROI marketer towards the end of this presentation. Hopefully. I'll do my best. All right, so startups versus enterprise. I've had the luck of working in both environments. Also some that have been B2C, B2B, B2B2C. It's really cool that actually I grew up in a family business. My grandmother started a flower shop, and then she evolved that flower shop into a ceramics. So it was, a good evolution of cross-sell, and I was learning all these things when I didn't even know what all that meant. So we also had ceramics to put the flowers in, and bases, and just interior design. And then we evolved into something completely different that were uniforms. That was super funny because, anyways, kind of like a funny story, and then we can do this just because it's the end of the day. The phone didn't stop ringing just because of the name. So then, one great lesson in marketing is like, have a good name for your business, because the phone just didn't stop ringing. I used to accompany her for all the quotes, all the pricing, taking the measures, for the people that were going to do uniforms, except one time, because it was a brothel that called us to take measures, and she's like, you need to wait in the car. I was like, this was the time. I was 17, by the way, which I get why. In enterprise, one of the ones that I remember that was, eye-opening, I was at Citigroup, I was at Bank of America. I was also part of an insurance company, and obviously very risk adverse. So you can see really why the board changes to more of a ping pong board, and the culture is completely different. If you think in terms of pros and cons of each, it's almost like a bizarre world, just to use a Seinfeld quote here, of each other. They are kind of like the reverse, right? In a startup, you have rapid decision-making, a close-knit team. Even if they're a team of 50, everyone knows each other. It's kind of like Cheers around here, where everyone knows your name. Fast execution, right? You have an idea. Do you want to take it to market? CEO, go for it. Sales team, can we sell that? I'm trying, right? It's very quick. But on the other side, you have, well, the team might not be familiar with what they're doing. There's lack of resources and no brand equity. It's almost the opposite, right? In a big startup or in a big enterprise. So can these two somehow live together, and then can we find this gray area in between? All right, so I'll get to that in a minute. What I'm also thinking, and where I'm trying to put the dots together, is when does innovation happen in both worlds? In a startup versus an enterprise. In a startup, it's kind of like recurrently. It happens every day. So I had it was an amazing opportunity to be a consultant for a subset of the government that advises SBA, or Small Business Administrations and Ventures. And it was funny because we had all these entrepreneurs that would come to us, and really there were some that would come every single day with a different idea. And it was like, didn't you just have a different idea the week before? So which one are you executing on? So finding focus on a startup is sometimes so difficult. And they have incredible ideas, sometimes they just don't execute on them the proper way. It's almost the opposite on an enterprise. They don't have ideas, and what it takes is that moment of sheer for them to really innovate. So it's, again, the opposites, right? Startups are almost always innovating. Enterprises only in extreme circumstances. So I'll share kind of like a reality that happened when I was at Citigroup. The last financial recession happened based on the Bureau of Labor Statistics, March of 2009. I was working as a client trade officer, and our department didn't really feel the recession that much because we were doing trades for institutional investors, so very large orders. What I think the last data that we had is that Citi let go something around between 50 and 70,000 people by the end of the recession. 50 to 70,000 people. That's almost the size of a city, right? That would qualify almost an extreme circumstance, right? And in fact, it did, because 2 years later, 2011, 2012, that's when their first innovation department was created. Ironically, if you talk to many locals, Liberty Mutual also has now an innovation lab, and it was almost created around the same time, 2012. An innovation lab within a startup is kind of like a redundant. It happens within everyone. Everyone brings ideas, and it just happens. So execution within innovation, or executing on innovation, is fundamental for a startup, and it's really difficult on enterprise. In fact, it's uncomfortable. But it can happen if some of the departments within an enterprise behave like a startup. All right, so what does all this mean, and then how can we bring all of these together more into an PMM? This all relates to really saying, I think as entrepreneurs, as a PMMs, we are somehow intrapreneurs, acting on ideas and taking those ideas to market, trying to execute on those ideas. And if I think on, again, trying to put that gray area in between that I was talking about 2 minutes ago, we act somehow as a startup and also within the enterprise. We have some kind of level of independence, right, in taking the market and what to do with that product and that great idea that you're telling me, and how do we take it to market? We have, in some cases, resources, and by the way, I don't mean resources only in the sense of financial resources or economic or budget, but it's also people, it's also platforms, it's also SaaS, it's different types of resources that we have access to. We take risks, and the biggest one is obviously when we go into go-to-market strategies. If that product, when you launch it, or when it's relaunched, completely sucks, it goes on you, right? It's not on sales, hopefully it goes on you. We are decision makers, and that is also across different teams and different BUs. And obviously, we are constrained for time. If anyone is not constrained for time, I would love to work with you. All right, so I am going to ask everyone to put your hands up, kind of like give each other a high five, and if anything, use this as an excuse for the next happy hour. The person on your right, left, in front of you, give each other a high five, because this is what in innovation we used to call the innovation fury. There you go. So for later on at happy hour, you're like, oh yeah, you're that weird person that gave me a high five. Give me a beer. Anyway, so in Innovation Fury, we have always what is strategy, resources, culture, and by the way, it was totally anecdotal that it was in the middle finger, because it wasn't meant to be. Leadership, and information resources. So in terms of strategy, innovation has to be aligned with what the goal of the company is. Right, at Citigroup, we couldn't just say, by the way, let's innovate into water cups. They'll be like, what? How does that result into financial and wealth management? That's not what we do. So it has to be aligned with what the company wants to do and what the leadership is supporting for us to do. They also will define the KPIs and how does that innovation will take place. Resources, again, I said it's not only about financial. One of the companies, or two companies that have a very well organized resource in terms of innovation is AT&T, believe it or not. They have something like that is called the TIP, the innovation process, and it generates something like around 120,000 different ideas from everyone in the company, and then the key is for them to execute. 3M has it within the bonus for each one of the engineers for them to innovate and then do something with that. Culture, so behaviors and attitudes, right? It's not only how it's done, it's not only on leadership, it's not only on the company, but if in a company that I used to work, Sun Life, completely risk averse, it took us about a year for us to convince the compliance and legal team that we needed a web page. And really, it was roughly a year. It was funny, because it was like almost if we were a Superman living in the basement of Lex Luthor, because compliance was watching everything that we were doing because we were on the same floor. So every time we had, hey, how about a web page? It's like, no, that can't happen. So after a year, they finally said yes, and then you can check that out. But anyways, what we'll be talking mostly today is information sources. And if you haven't seen that, that's a quote that I took from The Economist. On the cover of 2017, I believe it's in November, it said the world's most valuable resource is data. It's not oil, it's not tulips like it used to be, it's not gold, but it's data. And in terms of anything that we see, right, like if you click Grubhub, I order something, now there's someone tracking what you just like. So they'll recommend you things. So data. All right, so to do a good example into all of these things that I've been talking about, nothing better than a use case. So when I joined GoDaddy, it was about a year ago, my manager at the time said, we have this product that I don't think anyone has looked into it. And indeed, no one had looked into it in like about 12 or so years. Can you start doing some digging and see how can we innovate into this product? So yeah, sorry, I'm covering some of the things. So the product had been around since around 2017. And by the way, this was completely eye-opening because GoDaddy collects around 13 terabytes of data a day. That's 13 terabytes of data. That's a ton of data. But we didn't have any data on these products. So we had to innovate and create all of these stuff in between me, and I'll talk about really as a team. Brett Myers, another guy that was incredible. He showed a lot of grit, and if any one of you hadn't heard of the word grit, Angela Duckworth wrote a whole book about it, just well worth reading. But anyway, so this product showed a growth of about 30% per year. 30% per year, and again, just incredible. And that is on active members only. So active members, not the ones that had said, I don't really care for this, I'm out, just active members. In terms of segmentation and evolution of the product. So I think someone was mentioning earlier segmentation and how does that benefit my product and how can we pay attention to that? So what I keep calling in this case as the rock stars, the product had initially in 2007 been created for the rock stars. So this was who the product was aimed at, and this was probably who initially, they were 95, 85% of the target. Now it was only 26%. So it's not that they had gotten out of the product, it's just that other segments were growing more into this product. So again, huge eye-opening to us, like, whoa, this is shifting a little bit. And last thing that we realized is that about 84% of those customers were from the US. Very US dependent. So if there was a shift in economics or anything, we were just tied to the US. Not a bad thing, just data that we realize. All right, so internally, we were always talking, yeah, but we're the only ones out there. It's like, oh, oh, that's always risky to say. Let's not say that, because there's always competitors out there. And in fact, Q4, I kept tracking, by the way, always our competitors and what were they doing, and were they coming up with new ideas, were they coming up with new pricing, and in fact, one of them did, and they launched a good, better, best package. To this point, we only had a package. It was like a one-size-fits-all. Either you like it, or hopefully you like it, because that's what we have. It was pretty good, in my opinion, and mostly because they were positioning the product very well. In Q1, so that was Q4, right? That's when they launched it, and the product offering was almost to the T as how we were talking to the product internally. Not externally, not the way we should have been shouting it from the rooftops, but just internally between us. Then in Q1, they made changes to the product. And those changes were, they repositioned the product by having new names to each one of those plans. They also enhanced the benefits, but more importantly, I noticed that they raised prices. So to this point, everyone was saying, that product from the competitors is not that good. It's like, wait a minute. That, hypothetically, is just proving to me that there's a good tracking of the product because people are liking it, because now they have the guts to say, let's increase prices. Amazon Q3 of last year reported incredible profits. That's when they increased prices. And that's what they did in this case. I did a deep dive, and this is, so we were completely different on a few aspects. The orange line is us. So our pricing strategy was completely different. We were just a flat price. This is a membership product. Theirs is a price that increases over time. The more products you use, then the higher you pay. So a few competitive advantages that I'm realizing here and there just by digging into products and competitive intelligence. By the way, that little thing on the top left, my left, your right, it says that's competitive intelligence. The other stuff is data. So more competitive intelligence. I said pricing, and by the way, one of the things that I like to do, or how to keep track of competitors, is, hey, if any of your competitors is public, sweet. Because when they do those quarterly calls, I'm a big geek. I'm on top of that phone. I'm just listening to that. I'm reading all the reports. There's nothing better for me to just listening to that. There's tons of data on that. There's also a few products that I use, Google Alerts, just to keep track of them. Compile, Crayon, all of those platforms are great just to keep track of them. But more importantly is what to do with that data. And one of the other things that I did was this, right? Keeping track of pricing and how were they positioning each one of their products. One of the questions that I had when building a pricing strategy was, geez, but we have roughly 800 different products. How do we keep track of all of them, and which ones do we pay attention? And are we really keeping track of products with these primary competitors and the other 800 that these secondary competitors do have? That is going to be a nightmare, and sure is. So let's not do that. And by the way, hopefully everyone knows you need to have your primary competitors and secondary competitors defined, because you don't keep track of all 50 competitors out there. That's crazy. So what I did is ask what was the product that was mostly generating 70 to 80% of the profits, and what was that product that was really generating or being in the portfolio of 80 to 90% of our clients. And it was really one or two. All the rest were the extras, if you will. So you don't just keep track of all products in pricing, just the main ones. And that's what I compare here. And this was another perception that Stan just put us out there and then as a key differentiator, because we were consistently the lowest price in terms of renewals and registrations for that one product. Some of the companies, for instance, Dynadot, and I think there's someone in the room who works in the industry, so they might know these players well. Oh, there, finally, I see you. So they had, for instance, in terms of positioning, the registration price very low, but then in terms of renewals, whoops, it escalates. And then that's when you don't see it. And then some of you might say, wait, hold on, that's only $8 going to $8.20 or $8.50 or less than $9. That's nothing. True, but when you have 100,000 or 150 or 500 products costing $9 per renewal, that's a lot of money. And that's what these specific target market, the rock stars, the 26%, do care for. All right, good so far? I know, a few minutes and then drinks. So more data that we did, and Brett was, again, sometimes he was coming up with crazy ideas, and we never said there's a crazy idea, just because we always put them on the side. So we did an extra analysis, and then I wanted to know who are these customers that are renewing. Remember that I mentioned the active members versus the inactive members. Those that were not renewing, I wanted to know why were they not renewing, and I did a voice of the customer, big survey, and that was actually impressive because I thought, these were the people that said, I'm out, I hate you, I don't want this product anymore. But it had an incredible open rate, and we had something like 500 different responses, and they were all saying, I didn't like this. I thought I was buying this. I thought I was buying into an educational program, not that. So that was just also eye-opening. But in terms of renewals, I just didn't want to see how many people renewed. But I broke it down into first-year renewals versus second-to-end renewals. Has anyone done that, by the way? None. All right, so definitely if you have a product that has membership, I would suggest breaking it down into two different types of renewals. Those that are just the first year. So if I am, I don't know, buying Amazon Prime for the first year, do I renew that first year? Or do I stick around after year 2, 3, 4, 5, right? What we found out is that those that were only in the first year renewal, the renewal rate was super low, 62%. Those that were in the second to end, 83%. And this is over 2-3 year period of time. So super eye-opening. Why was that happening? So a few number of reasons, or briefly it was mostly in terms of placement and the way we were positioning the product with the clients. But that also opened our eyes in terms of LTV. And really, if you think about, for those that were in the first year renewal, they could have just been better off not even buying the product. Because as less than 80% conversion, you're better off as a one-time purchase of the product. When you're about 85%, that's about 6 billing cycles. So if you have a product that is $40, 6 billing cycles, and you're having a $240 LTV. When you're about 90%, and that's where we want to take these guys to, then that's 10 billing cycles. That's really good, LTV-wise. Over 95%, a VC wants that product. Good so far? So I'm looking in terms of, again, the ROI marketer. How can I move this product into something that if I ever want to say, hey, GM, can I buy this product off you? And then I'll sell it off. By the way, one additional analysis that we did with Brett and Nick, two analyst guys that I work closely with, was what was the LTV for this specific segment? And was a lot higher for those clients that were here renewing than for the clients that were just saying, goodbye, I'm out. So how much higher? About 30% on each one of our P&L categories. That was huge. So anyone that was in the program was spending about 30% more than anyone that was like out. So it was funny because we had these big day presentation to the former CEO, the existing COO. They were like, we keep hearing about this product that you're digging in. Can you give us a gist of it? The presentation was scheduled for 30 minutes. I was like, all right, 30 minutes are out. And then went into Q&A. It's an hour and a half. I was like, whoa, the CEO is kind of like engaging to this. They like it. One of the COO recommendations was, you should talk to Nick. And Nick can look into data a little differently. It's like, look at data differently. I've been trying to reinvent the wheel for a long time. I would love that. And it was really, can we just look at data not in a way of supply and demand, price over time? Like, that's so boring. And I wish this was video because he can actually move this and look at it in different ways. So what this crazy chart is the result of over 400 different data points that we took. It was a static view of data of those clients, 120,000 active clients, and how were they behaving, right? And so I'm looking at 400 different data points of these clients. What were they buying? How were they buying? What else were they using? And now we could segment them into 3 different clusters, right? Like, remember that initial pie chart that I had here that were the rock stars and the angels and the blah, blah, blah? Well, now we can cluster them into just 3. And from that, I can position the product a little more specifically to create good, better, best approach. So when he showed me this, I was like, man, this is sweet. Like, I would buy you a whiskey, Nick, because this is incredible. I know that these clients are they have specific needs and they have a specific value that they're looking after. These clients are completely different than this, right? Like, and that was sweet. Again, this is all in Tableau, so he's able to show it around and say, and by the way, if you click in here, then there's specific data that shows for that client. And it was really cool to not see only supply and demand. So what does this all mean? The product, we're in the midst of launching it or relaunching it with a good, better, best approach, which is if anyone does have just a product that is a one-size-fits-all, I highly recommend to move out of that. If this was a product that you were looking at, generally, just this is statistically speaking, not me, everyone would go into the middle one, so they're good. And that's, so even if your product is bad, just at least have a good, better, best approach, so it drives people to the good. So we're repositioning, also defining the target audiences, as I mentioned. So I'm kind of like moving more into the academic perception of what product marketing or marketers do, right? Like into the PPPs or PPPP. Place, we're having a new landing page because the existing one was almost from like the 90s. It was really bad. Like navigating that page, it felt like I can't find anything, and I know this product well, and sometimes it says one thing, but then 2 lines down you read the opposite of that. It's like, that's horrible. No wonder why the renewal rate is so bad. Where and how banners and promo codes appear, it's also something that I took upon me. So the promotion of these banners were in some of our blogs that really didn't care to promote them, so they were just there to take space. Enhancing the messaging and talking to the sales team and our channel, our customer support, so they understand the product better and the benefits of that product was, it's an incredible mind-changing game. And the last thing, we have a new break-even analysis. And the last thing that was almost like the product or the project that they give to the new guy was that. So I found out that there were several different codes out there that were pricing discounts. And there was a list that after digging further and digging further and digging further with pricing, they said, oh yeah, we have about 600 existing promo codes for this product. It's like, I'm sorry, you said 600 or 60? Because I think I might have missed that. Like, oh, no, 600 that have been built over time just to promote the product. It's like, and they're active? Yeah. It's like, holy cow, can you send that to me? Because we can have 600 existing promo codes just for the sake of it. So we have cleaned that up, and now we only have 4 main ones, not 600. All right. So that was kind of like the result of this. Now, in terms of product marketing, and again, how to use innovation and how to use innovation within a startup or an enterprise, I stole these slides from one of our senior executives, August. He leads all the customer enhancement and customer support. By the way, he's the only executive that I've seen, he rocks pink shoes on a stage. It's really funny. And sparkling pink shoes, not only just pink. So he said, what does it mean to be a guardian? And for anyone that is in support, they're a guardian of our brand. I think in product marketing, we are guardians of the product and guardians of the brand. So I hate reading, but in this case, really, what is a product or what is a guardian? It's a defender, the protector, or a keeper, the appointed guardian of public norms. So if I put that into product marketing, we're the appointed guardian of the brand, of the product. Other synonyms for a guardian, they're protector, defender, preserver, champion, custodian. I would say more product marketing is also the guardian of wow. So we want to create a wow experience every time you launch or relaunch a product. Every time you do a go-to-market campaign. So when, again, talking to August, we wanted to protect ourselves from meritocracy. Just don't say that, yeah, these will do. No, don't do that. Stay out there and then try to do the best you can. To demand special, not just accept, okay? To know that our organization will rise to our bar. So our bar, not just the bar of the organization, our bar will set the bar. And to use our diversity to protect to our work as a guardian of wow. All right, so I live by this mantra of it's either awesome or sucks. There is no in between. There is not that NPS survey that's either from 1 to 10. No, it's either 1 or 10. And that really is a mantra of any go-to-marketing strategy. Because either that marketing strategy that I had for a new landing page, it's either awesome or totally sucks. There's not in between. And to that, one of the last final 5 lessons learned, if you will, that I'll have is have rapid iteration, doing or living as an entrepreneur. So that means really learn, fall fast, get up, use those experiences. Challenge the hive mind. So challenge those in the organization to think differently. Don't accept meritocracy. No blame. Treat it like a science experience. So in other words, if I had created a landing page, and even if it sucks, that is a result that I want to take, learn from it, and improve. Constrain the freedom to explore. So it's great to have 120,000 different ideas like AT&T, but when do you execute on them, and when do you bring results? So in this case, in the case that I show you as a use case, we are bringing results, right? It wasn't just a ton of ideas and 5,000 different ideas a day. We're executing on them. And the last thing, this work will define your brand and your personal brand. And in this case, for Brett, who was initially just a customer support, he has now moved into an analytic role that he wanted. Nick has moved into a director role. And honestly, whenever we talk, we have fun, right? Like we joke around and that idea sucks. Let's just put it on the board for now. But we have fun with this. And it has defined our brand. It has defined the product. All right, I'm not sure I have time for questions, but I just wanted to keep it going. All right, cool. So just drinks. I think that's it. Thank you all.
Thank you, Alejandro. Thanks to Product Marketing World for hosting such a great day. I'll see you all.